Welcome to Connect to Youth. I'm Steph Seidel. Good morning.
Good morning.
Good morning, ladies. I have three wonderful ladies here with me this morning. I have Stacey from Legacy Counseling and Janelle and Ashton from the Youth Justice Committee. Hello, hello.
Hello.
Hi. I already said that, right? Hello. Why don't you tell me a bit about yourself? Let's start with Stacey. What are you up to?
I am a child and youth counselor, or one of. We actually got a new one there last week. So
Congratulations.
Now there's two of us doing the child and youth counseling role at Legacy Counseling. So, I get to hang out with youth and kids kind of all day. Get to talk to them about what they're going through, give them some advice, and, just be a support for them. So that's what I do.
Great. How about you, Ashton?
So I'm a youth worker in town. So I get to hang out with youth all day too, and help them achieve their goals and whatnot, and whatever they want to do. Really, I want to help them succeed, and we work with them, so we can have a lot of fun too. And then on my off time, I do some voluntary Youth Justice Committee work, which we'll talk about later, I guess.
Awesome. Janelle?
I'm a mother of two, and I work for Big Brothers Big Sisters, so I also work with youth all the time, and then voluntary with Youth Justice.
Wow, that's awesome. I love that you guys you care so much about youth that you're not just doing it in your paid time, in your off time as well. Can you tell me a little bit about what the Youth Justice Committee is?
Mm-hmm. So we're a group of volunteers, and we get referrals from the justice system to mentor youth through an extrajudicial sanctions program, which we'll explain next. So we come from various backgrounds, like a lot of us. Some of us do work in the nonprofit sector, and some of us work in the industry, but what we have in common is all of us want to make sure youth succeed, and we work with youth who have committed a crime, and we help them through this program. And after youth take responsibility for what they've been up to, then we use a strengths-based approach, which means that we focus on the youth's strengths, we focus on what they're good at and whatnot, and we use that in the program ourselves. So that's a bit about what we do.
Wow. And then extrajudicial sanctions program. That's a big title.
Yep.
And I'm 29. I don't know what it means, so feel free.
So to shorten it up, we sometimes call it EXJS. It's an alternative measures program. It was implemented in Alberta to reduce the number of youth who are seen through the justice system, so more restorative and less punitive. Essentially, it's youth who commit an eligible offense and take accountability. They're willing to participate and they want to restore the harm that they've done. They can work with us to go through voluntary measures at a community level rather than court-imposed consequences. So by successfully completing their sanctions, they have the ability to avoid having a criminal record, as the pending charge will be dropped.
Wow.
Success means that they restored harm either to the community or the victim, and by working to make amends to see their wrongdoing. It's really based on the Indigenous concept of restorative justice. So it's all voluntary, and it's not about establishing guilt or punishment. It's just about healing and dealing with resolution.
Wow. So what would be some of the things that a youth might have to do if they were agreeing to voluntarily stand up and say, I'll do this instead?
Mm-hmm. Well, it's really tailored to the youth themselves. So some of the things might be community service. So it might be volunteering your time at a soup kitchen or at the food bank. It could include writing an essay, looking at the consequences of a criminal record in the future, or looking at some opportunities in the future for like school. So we might do that as a project. There's really all kinds of different things. We've had kids do stuff in their schools, like run bottle drives, and I think food drives too. Can't think of any other examples.
We really want to focus on what they're interested in. So if they can learn something out of it that they take forward in their life. So say like we have an offense where the child was caught doing graffiti in the community. Maybe we do like some kind of art project with them, or have them research what kind of jobs they could get, but how having a criminal record would impact that. So it's just, it's really dealing with the community, but also dealing with the youth and what's going to work for them.
Wow.
Mm-hmm.
Wow. I actually really like that idea, because it kind of takes away again from like you're punishing them, they're a bad person, to like, you know what, you made a mistake and that's okay. And we actually want to support you in what you like to do. And so why don't we figure out a healthy and non-criminal way to like get you involved in the community, rather than just having you have a criminal record that's going to follow you.
Exactly, yeah. We just aim to mentor them through and have this kind of bad experience in the past and see what we can highlight out of it that will bring out their strengths.
Yeah, it is crazy what a criminal record can do to somebody. You know, like my husband is American, and we had to send. He's not a criminal, thank God, and he doesn't have anything when you do a police check. But it's crazy that like we lived in Australia, he lived in Michigan, he lived in Colorado, he lived in all these different states, and you have to get a police check from every state to send away for a permanent resident application. And if he had anything on those police checks, I don't know what would have happened. We already did wait 18 months just for a normal guy who actually did fall in love with somebody legitimately, you know?
Yeah, exactly.
So that's one of the things, I mean, as growing up on a border, we always knew that if you had a criminal record, oh my gosh, like you won't be able to go into the States. That would be a huge thing. But what maybe other consequences might follow somebody into their life of not being able to do something that they wanted to do with a criminal record so young?
Well, it definitely impacts employment in the future. So it can, if you want to work with any kind of children or any other vulnerable, or if you're an adult want to work with youth too, that could hinder your chances of employment. And just regardless, sometimes it can affect employment in the future. Other travel, just to travel to other countries, even if you're not living there, it can impact that as well, getting past border.
Yeah, I think it really depends on the type of offense too, but commonly I think the youth just don't think that far into the future. And something that we want to educate them on is just how impacting it can be.
Yeah.
I would say, it's just something that will follow you forever.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah. Exactly. And even when it's, off your record, it can still be there to say that happened in the past, but you've served your time. So that's something that we all agree on in the committee, is that we understand that in adolescence and as a youth, you're very much in the now, and that's also how your brain operates at that time. And that's exactly. So we want to give that opportunity to take that as a learning opportunity instead of being a stain that follows you for the rest of your life and causes these consequences, because we know that sometimes, especially the most common might be stealing or graffiti. And in those circumstances, we understand and we remember as youth, like sometimes you're thinking in the now, or there's issues of peer pressure that might influence that. So this gives you a chance to really reflect and give back and then make amends for that, rather than having to be punished in a sense in that way of affecting employment or travel in the future.
Wow. And for you guys, I mean, this is a volunteer position for you. What made you say, this is where I need to be, I want to help youth?
Well, for me, it was once I heard about it through a friend of mine that said that they were looking for volunteers, and I just jumped on board because I knew that I've always wanted to work with youth in another way, but just hearing about the program, I knew that it aligned with my values and how the kind of impact I want to make, and also something that, I appreciate from that time in youth, that you need that support and have hopefully youth can feel they have a community to support them. We want to make sure that they succeed. We don't want to be like, oh, those are the delinquent youth. We don't want to deal with them. So definitely that's why I jumped on board.
Yeah, I think similar for me as well, like just the value of the committee, and hearing about it excited me, like what we're able to do and the difference that we can make for them. Whereas if they don't have that support, they might end up in the court system, and then it can be a slippery slope.
Yeah.
So I think that this is a pretty awesome opportunity.
Great. Well, we're going to chat some more with Janelle, Ashton, and Ashley on 91.1 The Bridge. This is Connect Youth. And welcome back to Connect Youth. I'm here with Ashton and Janelle from the Youth Justice Committee. Hello there.
Hello.
Hi again.
And Ashley Stacey from Legacy Counseling. Thanks for joining me again, ladies. It's been a wonderful chat. We've been talking about the Youth Justice Committee and that it's a volunteer organization, that you are helping youth, which is super awesome. So can you just quickly overview what you guys do as the Youth Justice Committee?
Mm-hmm. So we mentor youth through a extrajudicial sanction program. So it's a voluntary measure when they're facing their first criminal charge under the age of 18. It's a way that they can restore what they've done and avoid having a criminal record. So we just want to support them through that and help them come up with ways that they can restore that harm.
Awesome. Now, I seem to watch a lot of crime shows. I mean, not like Criminal Minds, because that one's too scary, but like the good way. They're in the courtroom drama. Does that look like anything like what you guys do? Do you have to go to court with the youth, or how do you get it so that they don't have a criminal record and they're able to go through your program?
So we don't actually go to court with the youth. It's definitely something they can ask us to do as the mentor because we're volunteers. We can go with them and support them, but it's not a part of our job. We are the part that after we get a referral. So once youth has gone to court for that first, then court's decided that you can go through this program, the extrajudicial sanctions, then we get the referral, and from there we just take it with meeting a youth, spending time with the youth. We have our first meeting, and from then on we have a mentor that is with the youth. From that, it's usually about a 3-month period, that can do anything. They can help the youth with anything, such as like driving to any kind of voluntary stuff, or just to help them find resources in the community. We decide everything, finish the paperwork, and that's where we do. And then we send the paperwork into probation, and they take it from there. So.
Okay, so one of the things you had said was graffiti. What are some of the common issues you see with youth and their first offense?
Yeah, it's usually stealing or graffiti. So we work with cases of all kinds. There are eligibility criteria, so we can't take like domestic abuse or anything very extreme, but we work with these types of offenses. Understandably, we talked about how it's in the moment, so they kind of gauge whether this is something that the youth can be accountable for and can make up for.
So once they take responsibility for their action, we can restore justice in that way. And we find especially with, not really an issue, but with the fact of how our youth brains work, it's very in the now. So we do know that you want to take responsibility and move from there. We also notice that with youth, there's a lot of peer pressure that happens, and we remember that as youth and as teenagers, that sometimes, peer relationships are really important, and you're forming them and making them. So sometimes that can take precedence over doing the right thing. So we notice that that's kind of an issue in itself, and something that we understand, and we want to make sure that youth understand that we empathize with how they feel, and that sometimes things happen, and then they'll have the opportunity to really learn from that.
Wow, yeah, that's great.
Yeah, social pressure or peer pressure, or even sometimes family pressure can kind of get in the way of trying to live life in a certain way. So especially when you're a teenager, you want to have fun, you want to fit in. It's easy to kind of go with what the rest of the group is doing, and sometimes what the rest of the group is doing is not legal or healthy or appropriate in that time. But it makes you kind of feel good in the moment to be like, oh yeah, you know what? I just went and like spray painted or tagged this building, and not actually realizing that that's something that you can actually get in trouble for. And so a lot of kids come in with situations with friends and stuff like that for counseling, that they're just doing it for their friends, or they're doing it to fit in, and to find value and like worth in that. So being able to kind of redirect that and say that, hey, you can still fit in, but you don't have to necessarily be a part of that specific community, is a good way of helping youth come into their own identity and stuff.
Exactly. Helping them get to know themselves, because that's the big part about our strengths-based approach, is that we focus on the youth strengths. So we want them to know themselves. We want them to feel empowered through the whole program, that they're like, I can do this, and, I know what's right or wrong, and, it can also help them know, like, I was able to get past this first offense. Maybe next time I might be able to remember that, okay, maybe I shouldn't do that, and that's okay. But we really want to make youth feel empowered through the process.
Yeah, we want to encourage them to, choose behaviors that allow them to fit in without compromising the rest of their life.
Yeah, for sure. And do you find, youth, your friends are your friends, and is there a way for them to meet other people in their retraining, or? I guess through any volunteer work that they might do. That's definitely opening doors for them. Like if they're, say, volunteering at the food bank or Snow Angels or something, they're going to meet people, they're going to make connections. Who knows where that's going to take them.
Exactly. So you can meet other adults that might be a good support, and references and whatnot. That's always fun. But also just to meet other youth that might be doing the same thing as you, and realizing that, maybe other youth are doing that too. And I also do find that some youth who have already gone through the program, they might know each other. So sometimes you're spreading like the word, I've already done this, like this is what happened. And
you can do it too.
Yeah, exactly.
Wow, that's awesome. Well, we're going to come back with more Youth Connect on 91.1 The Bridge. This is Connect Youth on 91.1 The Bridge. I'm here with Ashley, Ashton, and Janelle. They're from the Youth Rights Committee, and Ashley is from Legacy Counseling, and we're chatting about the Youth Justice Committee's programs and things that you can do if you are on your first criminal offense and what you can get up to. Now, ladies, I have a question for you. As you work with this is your volunteer hours. How many hours a week do you spend doing this?
It really depends. It depends. A lot of us as board members, we have extra duties. So Janelle is our secretary, so she'll be doing a lot of that work. We make sure we have meetings together. I'm the case manager, so I'll be doing, spreadsheets and whatnot. So it really just depends on how busy the week is and how big our caseload is. And then we all volunteer on panels, so with the youth. So also depending on that. So man, it could range from like 5 hours a week to maybe 1 hour one week and then 10 the next. So yeah, it's all over the place. But
Wow.
It really just depends.
And how long have you been involved with it?
I've been doing this since 2015,
Oh, wow.
I believe.
Yeah, same here. A little bit after though.
Yeah.
But yeah, so about
Yeah.
2 years now.
Wow, that's awesome. And so since you've been around for 2 years, what would be what you would say impart some wisdom on us? What do you got?
So we talked about common issues that we see, like what kids do most often. What we didn't really talk about was that something that they don't understand is this will follow them forever if they don't take care of it now. So they might not want to do the work right now, but it's going to be long lasting if they do. So we have amazing success stories and very heartwarming things that have happened, but also unfortunate stories where they don't want to take accountability or they just don't want to do the work to clear themselves right now. And then unfortunately they do go back to court and face the justice system. So, once you have that record, even though it occurred in your adolescence, it follows you for life. It doesn't go away when you turn 18 just because you were a youth when it happened. So I think that that's important to recognize. If the opportunity is there to restore something that you've done and grow as a person at the same time, if you commit that eligible offense and you're facing the option of just going to court or doing the work with the Youth Justice Committee, I think that you should do the latter because a little bit of work will help. And you have caring members who are there to support you. Some people don't have those supports in their life naturally, so we're happy to take those phone calls and be there kind of cheering them on to the finish line.
Yeah, for sure.
Yep.
I love it. So you guys are volunteers. We've said that before, but how did you get involved and how can somebody, if they're like, oh my gosh, this is awesome, I need to join, what can they do?
Well, they need to contact us. So our email is fmyouthjustice@gmail.com. So if anyone is interested, just shoot us an email and let us know that you want to volunteer and we can let you know how to get involved, which does include getting a criminal record. So
Okay,
there you go,
so you gotta be
another
careful
important
there.
thing. And yeah, we also have a Facebook page that is, what's it called again?
FMYJC, or you can just look up Fort McMurray Youth Justice, and you can follow us there, and then you can contact us through the page as well. Just send us a message.
Yep.
We also require a family background check, so child welfare check.
Okay.
So those are two things that we would need to have done, but we can help get that process going for anyone who's interested.
And something else you were saying was about community partners?
Yeah, so we're actually in need of community partners, which is any agency that can offer us an opportunity for these youth. So sometimes it's difficult coming up with sanctions because youth can't volunteer everywhere. They need a guardian or somebody. So we're just wondering if there's anyone out there who's interested in, kind of making a difference. It might only be a few hours if they can offer their support as well, so that we have them to reach out to.
Awesome. Now, I just have a couple questions for me as a person. So, are there certain things, I would ask a youth this, like, what do you avoid doing? Do you avoid, like, texting and driving? I think these are, like, don't do that, don't text and drive. Are there things that you would impart in a youth and say, like, please, there's no graffiti, but what else do you say? Like, please just don't do that. It's just such a silly thing to get in trouble for.
Yeah, shoplifting.
Shoplifting, yeah. Please don't do that.
So your friends might be doing it, but I'm sure your parents will happily. Or, there's some way that you can come up with the money.
Yeah. Or threatening. Sometimes it's a little, can be pretty convoluted. But we'd say, maybe let's try to work it through a different way.
I think just being mindful in the moment of what you're doing. It's hard. I get, like Ashton said, we get the thrill out of it, or we're just doing it to fit in. Maybe it's just a behavioral thing where we're acting out, but I think it's just being mindful of your actions and how they're going to not only impact yourself, but harm other people.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
I think that's a really good tip, to just be mindful, because a lot of times we're not thinking about our actions or the consequences of our actions. So even encouraging youth, if you're listening right now, if you are facing a criminal offense, take the opportunity to kind of get it cleared off of your record or have a less severe consequence from it, and be able to have that opportunity, take advantage of it, to be able to kind of connect with other people. And for sure, like, you know what, if you're going through something, try to reach out to the people around you that are going to help.
That's right.
In a way that, you know, is actually going to be helpful for you, rather than just, you know, getting angry or threatening. And even though it's just words, a threat is also taken quite seriously and can follow you.
I think, like, for anyone who doesn't have the opportunity to work with Youth Justice Committee, just reaching out and finding out who is in your life that's a support. We know we're our biggest supports, but there's always caring people around. It's just a matter of, like, really looking for that help. So I would say, like, please avoid any criminal activity, but, you know, if you find yourself in a sticky situation, having the strength to walk away or to reach out and say, I made a mistake.
Yeah,
Exactly.
And if you're an adult listening, like, sometimes a lot of youth, they do have parents, but oftentimes there are parents that aren't around or available for the youth. And that's sometimes where youth kind of go and seek help from other people, usually peers, and that's where you get into peer pressure and sometimes some not so healthy choices. So if you're a parent, or even if you're an adult and you know what, you have a passion to help kids, get involved. Just because they're not your biological kid doesn't mean you can't have a great impact on their life.
Exactly. It takes a village, right?
Exactly.
Yep.
What's one of the silliest things you've seen someone be charged for? I know somebody who has a criminal record because when he was 14 or 15, he mooned somebody at a sunset. To me, that's like the silliest thing to get a criminal record for. Like, come on, use your head.
We haven't had that one, but it never came. I can't think of a silly one, actually, to tell you the truth. Have we?
No, I don't. Not that I can recall.
Yeah, I
we
can't.
deal with some serious things.
Yeah. Oh, man. That would be pretty funny, though. How would you restore that?
I don't know. Hand out belts. Make them start. I don't know.
Exactly, right?
Hey, this has been Connect to Youth on 91.1 The Bridge. Thanks for joining me, guys.
Thank you.
Thank you.